Alright guys, welcome back to Agri-Supply Agri-Demand Model. What we're going to get into now is moving from the short run to the long run. This is really going to be probably the pivotal video in this series, really getting right to the heart of how we move from the short run to the long run. And the key to that are these terms right here: sticky wages and flexible wages. In the short run, wages and prices are sticky. In the long run, they become flexible, which that was touched on in the previous video. We're going to go into a lot more detail using the help of these two models. So we'll get to that in just a moment, but to make sure, let's kind of recap where we are at the moment. Let me just fix that real quick, make that say E1. But other than that, there's a few things that I want you to notice on these models from the short run to the long run. We have, again, APL and output, real GDP. One thing I want you to keep in mind, where we see our LRAS curve, as I'm writing it right now, is labeled down at the bottom on the axis as YP. What does that mean? Well, remember, the variable Y, so that letter, that capital Y, it means three things. They are all synonymous. You could write it out mathematically that they are all the same thing. Y equals income, which equals output, which equals real GDP. So those three terms are interchangeable. Real GDP is the same as output, is the same as total income. So that is the letter Y, is output. That's what, when we read this, anytime you see Y on this model, we're going to refer to that as output. The P here is for potential. So YP is potential output. Now, remember, what this is saying, this LRAS curve, this is what an economy supplies in the long run. The long run occurs, like the last video told you, when prices and wages have become flexible, okay? Once they have adjusted. In the short run, they haven't adjusted. So in the short run, you have this vertically positively sloping SRAS curve. The higher the price level goes, the higher output goes. So there's a positive relationship in the short run between output and price level. Say that again. In the short run, aggregate supply curve, there is a positive relationship between aggregate price level and output. In the long run, as you see with the vertical line, there is no relationship. A change in price level has no effect on output in the long run. And the reason for that is because prices and wages have become flexible, meaning that they have adjusted. The idea here is it's a simple idea, but it's really important. In the short run, remember, we take all costs as being fixed. So we assume that the price of your inputs doesn't change. We assume that the price of your wages for your workers doesn't change. That nothing changes, the price of oil doesn't change. None of that changes in the short run. In the long run, it does. And when it does, changes in price level no longer have an effect on output. So, this is where the economy is headed. It's always headed somewhere back. It's either going away from or back to its long run aggregate supply curve. And this is potential output. This is the amount of output that an economy can produce in the long run when all prices have become flexible, once they have adjusted, once the price of oil has gone up or down, once the wages have gone up or down, whatever happens. So this is after all that takes place. This is potential output. So naturally, the question should be coming to your mind right now. Well, look at E1. E1 is beyond potential output. It is to the right, meaning that output is greater than potential output, and that's what this one is labeled. When Y is greater than YP, that means when output is greater than potential output. So how can an economy produce more than potential output? That doesn't sound like something that makes sense. The key is sticky wages. Okay? Sticky wages is the key to everything unlocking this aggregate supply, aggregate demand model and other models that you'll do later down the road in this course. Sticky wages. So let me define sticky wages. Sticky wages are wages that are slow to rise when unemployment is low, and they are wages that are slow to fall when unemployment is high. All right, let's do that again. Sticky wages are wages that are slow to rise when unemployment is low, and slow to fall when unemployment is high. All right, now within that statement, there's a lot of stuff going on. So let's map this out in 3 sequential steps, make this really easy. Because really this is what it comes down to. This is what this entire model and other models will come down to, are these 3 steps. This is going to be something that will help you unlock a lot of things in macroeconomics. The first is going to be output. So what has happened to output? Well, operating here at E1, so let me just circle this to make sure that everybody, you can see it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. At E1, output, Y1, is greater than potential output. All right, so this is actual output greater than potential output. That's what this says. So output, then, we would say, is increasing. So step 1 over here is when output increases. So we have high output. Step 2, what occurs because of that high output? So it's unemployment that we're worried about now. So output directly affects unemployment. So just think biologically, when we are producing more, when we have greater output, do we need more or less workers? More. So because we need more workers, what's going to happen to unemployment? It's going to fall. So step 2 is we have a decrease in unemployment. So we have this negative relationship here. When output increases, unemployment decreases. Now the next thing, and this was in my definition for sticky wages, is what's going to happen now to wages. So when unemployment falls, what will happen to wages? To answer that question, I'm going to draw for you a regular supply-demand model. So back from probably the first unit of macro, this is really a micro concept. Price, quantity, this is going to be the market for labor. So quantity of labor. We don't typically think of labor as something that would be on this kind of model, but it works. We think of when you get paid for your job that you work, you get paid a wage. Well, for you, that's a wage. For your employer, so you work at Chili's, they are paying you, that is a price for them. So price is synonymous with wage. They're the same thing. So quantity of labor. So if we are producing more, what's changing on this model? Well, the thing that's changing is the demand for labor. And what's happening to the demand for labor? Since they want to produce more, they need to hire more workers. So they are demanding more workers. So the demand curve for labor shifts to the right. And so we have a new point of equilibrium. And what we really care about isn't as much the quantity, but the price level. They both go up. Price and quantity go up. Price especially. So what happens now is that when unemployment falls, wages go up. All right? So far, so good. Hopefully you're still with me. So this right here that I've drawn, that is going to be a truth throughout this course. It needs to be something that comes naturally, that you just know, you don't even have to think about it. Output goes up, unemployment falls. Unemployment falls, wages go up. Now here's the thing about these wages. Steps 1 and 2, this is what occurs in the short run. So in the short run, output has increased. We are operating at E1 or Y1 level of output. Unemployment falls, but initially wages remain sticky. So again, let me say that definition again for sticky wages, and now it should make a little bit more sense. Sticky wages are wages that are slow to rise when unemployment is low and slow to fall when unemployment is high. So what happens is, just because we are operating temporarily beyond potential output, so we are doing so because in the short run, wages are sticky, production costs are fixed, they have not adjusted yet. That is how we are able to operate at E1. So to answer that pivotal question, how can we operate or produce more beyond potential output? The answer is because sticky wages. Because they do not change quickly. They are slow to rise. Now eventually, in the long run, step 3 will occur. Wages will increase. That is going to happen, without a doubt. When it does happen, and if you're wondering about a timetable between short run and long run, is it a certain amount of days, weeks, months, or years? The answer is it depends. There is no set time, so don't get hung up on that. But the idea is that in the short run, we're able to operate beyond potential output because wages have not adjusted yet. When they do, however, wages are going to go up. So the next question is, when wages go up, what does that affect? What does that do? Well, if you remember back to the last video when we talked about changes in supply, the second one is a change in nominal wages, the amount of money that a person gets paid. When wages go up, that is an input cost to companies. If you're paying higher wages, you cannot be as productive because you cannot afford as many workers. So when this does happen, when step 3 occurs and wages go up, that is going to shift our short run aggregate supply curve to the left. And that is going to bring us back to potential output. So the price level goes up and output decreases from its original output back to potential output. That is what will happen in the long run. So output increases, unemployment falls in the short run, and eventually those wages will adjust upwards. And when those wages do adjust upwards, it'll shift your short run aggregate supply curve back to the left, bringing it back to your long run aggregate supply or back to potential output. Okay? Now on this side, we have the opposite scenario taking place. This is an economy that is producing less than potential output. So we have step 1. Again, it's going to be the same 3 steps. This time reversed. We have falling output. So when actual output is less than potential output. When we have falling output, we're not producing as much. We don't need as many workers. So when we don't need as many workers, unemployment is going to rise. When unemployment rises, we could draw it out in another supply-demand model. I'm not going to do that. You can picture it for yourself, hopefully. When we're not producing as much, companies don't want workers as much, the demand for labor would decrease, so it would shift demand curve to the left, causing the wage to drop. So that's what's going to happen here. Wages are going to fall. But again, the key is that these first 2 steps occur in the short run, whereas the third step occurs only in the long run. So in the short run, we will operate at less than potential output. So this is bad for an economy. This is a recession, is really what we're looking at here at point E1, where we are producing less than potential output. In the long run though, when wages do fall, that then makes labor cheaper. So producers will be able to hire more workers once they have become flexible. In the long run, wages will become flexible, and when they do, they can hire more workers, which will increase their productivity, which will shift our short-run aggregate supply curve to the right, which will bring output back to potential. So we won't be below potential output anymore. It'll come back, and the way that it comes back is when wages adjust. So the reason that we operate anywhere besides the long run, the reason that we can operate greater than or less than potential output is because sticky wages. The way we adjust to the long run is when those wages stop being sticky and become flexible. And so like I said, this is a really important one, so if you have to watch it again, watch it again. I hope that this helped you guys out. Alright, till next time, this has been a LaMoney production.